time is 6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Delvin Samarasinghe and read by Rumesh Peris. First, the headlines. The discussions between health and trade unions are unsuccessful. Japan donates vehicle and equipment to Sri Lanka to eliminate drugs and terrorism. New members appointed for 8 parliamentary committees. Employers move out of the collective agreement with estate workers. The government decides to prioritize the implementation of a unitary digital identity framework. Increasing number of fatal road accidents causing a significant socio-economic disasters. In news overseas, the UN says severe hunger threatens over 10 million in the Horn of Africa. And in sports, Formula E could introduce charging pit stops from Gen 3 era. And now the news in detail. The discussions between Health Minister Keheli Rambukmalda and health trade unions have been unsuccessful. Therefore, the trade unions have decided to continue with their trade union action. 18 trade unions have joined the strike. A large number of patients have been severely inconvenienced due to the strike. Although doctors prescribe medicine for patients who sought treatment from clinics and outpatients departments, pharmacists refrained from issuing drugs. As a result, there were long queues near pharmacies. It is reported about 65,000 health workers are taking part in the strike. Following the commencement of the first session of the 9th Parliament, new members were appointed today for 8 parliamentary committees, including the Parliamentary Committee on Public Enterprises and the Public Accounts Committee. These committees will meet in the coming days to elect chairpersons for the committees. Deputy Speaker Ranjit Sembalapitiya informed Parliament of the list of members. The other committees thus appointed are the committees on public petitions, the Committee on Backbenchers, the Legislative Standing Committee, the Standing Orders Committee, the House Committee on Ethics and Privileges. Employers have moved out of the collective agreement with state workers. Ceylon Workers' Red Flag Union said as a result, estate workers are facing severe hardships. Advisor of the union, Menaka Kandasamy, said although there was a collective agreement, many of the demands have not been met. The government has decided to prioritize the implementation of a unitary digital identity framework. Under the proposed unitary digital identity framework, it is expected to introduce a personal identity verification device based on biometric data, a digital tool that can represent the identities of individuals in cyberspace, and the identification of individuals' identities that can be accurately verified in digital and physical environments. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Get extra 10 rupees for every dollar and receive a refund of transaction fees up to rupees 1,000 when depositing funds to a rupee account from People's Bank.
Sri Lanka Medical Association says increasing number of fatal road accidents in Sri Lanka at present is causing a significant socio-economic catastrophe in the country. According to police, there were 1,875 serious accidents in the country in January alone, and 235 of them were fatal accidents. 3-wheelers were involved in 39 fatal accidents, and at least 40 people have been killed in 3-wheeler accidents in the past month. A total of 250 people were killed in road accidents in January alone. Approximately 8 people a day were killed in road accidents in January. Providing radiation treatment using the 3 new linear accelerators valued at about 1 billion rupees set up at the Apeksha Hospital, Maharagama, commenced yesterday. Acting Director of the Apeksha Hospital, Dr. Vijita Gunasekara, said, as a result, prevailing congestion for radiation treatment will end within a period of about 3 months. The boats of Indian fishermen detained in Karinagar, Jaffna have been put up for auction for the second day today. 5 boats have been sold today. Over 5 million rupees have been received through the auction held yesterday. The auction of Indian fishing boats will continue till the 11th of this month. It was organized by the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Department headquarters in Colombo. And that ends local news.
Get extra 10 rupees for every dollar and receive a refund of transaction fees up to rupees 1,000 when depositing funds to a rupee account from People's Bank. These offers are valid until 30th April.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
Japan has donated vehicles and equipment to Sri Lanka that can be used to eliminate drugs and terrorism. Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Mitsukoshi Hideki, made a symbolic handover of the donation to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today at the Presidential Secretariat. The value of the donation is 700 million rupees. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In Watchlight, the President has instructed the Secretary to the Ministry of Education to look into whether there has been any undue influence on the interview board or the Education Service Committee of the Public Service Commission. He has directed to find whether there was undue influence during and after the interview of candidates in appointing principals for national schools. And that came to you in Watchlight. Moving on to a bulletin of world news, first the headlines. The UN says severe hunger threatens over 10 million in the Horn of Africa. Canada's Prime Minister demands an end to trucker protest. Australian Parliament makes formal apology to rape accuser. And Hollywood prepares for Oscar nominations. And now the world news in detail. The United Nations World Food Programme says 13 million people across the Horn of Africa face severe hunger because of continued drought. Failed harvests and food shortages are forcing families from their homes. The WFP says an immediate assistance is needed to prevent a humanitarian crisis. Canada's Prime Minister has said the protest by truckers that has paralyzed the capital, Ottawa, has to stop. Justin Trudeau said Canadians were shocked and frankly disgusted by some protesters' behavior, which has reportedly included vandalism and racial abuse. Lorry drivers have been rallying against Canada's COVID vaccine rules. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has made a formal apology to a former political staffer who says she was raped by a colleague in Parliament House in 2019. Brittany Higgins' case sparked a sweeping review that identified a boys' club culture in Parliament in which sexual harassment is rife. The apology in Parliament today was also for others who have suffered sexual misconduct or bullying there. And finally, the Oscar nominations will be announced today with an expanded Best Picture category, which it is hoped that make room for a wide range of films. The Power of the Dog, Belfast, and The West Side Story are among the films expected to pick up multiple nominations. Back to the headlines of the world news. The United Nations says severe hunger threatens over 10 million in the Horn of Africa. Canada's Prime Minister demands an end to trucker protest. Australian Parliament makes formal apology to rape accuser. And Hollywood prepares for Oscar nominations. And that concludes World News.
Development News is brought to you by Let's take coal out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
A special feature introduced at the recently concluded National Industrial Exhibition 2022 held at the BMICH was the parade held to promote the local vehicle industry in international arena. Sri Lankan vehicle manufacturers and assemblers presented a parade of locally built vehicles at the event. And that was Development News.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928. Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Moving on to sports news. First, motorsports. Formula E teams will join forces for a new generation which could see pit stops for battery charging. Jaguar will supply rival Envision Racing with its new powertrain for the 2022 and 23 seasons Gen 3 cars. The cars are expected to improve road-going electric vehicles with long-lasting and high-performing batteries and braking through power storage. In other sports news, Winter Olympics. Nathan Shen delivered a world record scoring routine to lead the men's figure skating at Beijing 2022, but Yuzuru Hanya was left shocked when his medal chances were badly dented. The showdown between the Japanese double Olympic champion and the American triple world champion is one of the most keenly anticipated events. And finally, in sports news, it's tennis. The Women's Tennis Association say Pang Shuai's latest interview about sexual assault allegations does not alleviate its concerns. Pang accused a Chinese government leader in November in a social media post, but it was swiftly deleted and the player then disappeared for weeks. But the 36-year-old said on Monday she never alleged sexual assault. And that was sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Uzbekistan Airlines will launch charter flights to Sri Lanka on a regular basis, and the airline has decided to commence the weekly operation centering Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport. Aitken Spence Travels, together with one of the leading tour operators, will be bringing in the first ever charter flight to Sri Lanka from Uzbekistan from tomorrow. And that was Business News.
Business news sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
State Minister of Regional Cooperation Taraka Balasuri said significant strides in establishing free trade agreements with Bangladesh and the Maldives, together with the existing FTAs, will pave the way to initiate FTAs with most Southeast Asian countries by next year. Speaking at a webinar organized by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, he expressed the desire for greater collaboration between the two countries, highlighting Sri Lanka's ICT industry as likely to be of particular interest to Ukraine. And that ends economic news. The weather report is next.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
Finally, the weather report. The Met Department says several spells of showers will occur in the eastern, Uva, northern and north-central provinces and in Hambantota and Matale districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at few places in the Sabaragama province and in Kandutara, Nuwara, Galle and Matara districts during the evening or night. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragama, central and north-central provinces during the morning. And that was the weather report. And to end this news broadcast, a recap of the main news headlines. The discussions between health and trade unions are unsuccessful. Japan donates vehicles and equipment to Sri Lanka to eliminate drugs and terrorism. New members appointed for 8 parliamentary committees. Employers move out of the collective agreement with estate workers. The government decides to prioritize the implementation of a unitary digital identity framework. Increasing number of fatal road accidents cause a significant socio-economic disaster. In news overseas, the UN says severe hunger threatens over 10 million in the Horn of Africa. And in sports, Formula E could introduce charging pit stops from Gen 3 era. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.